By default, Elementor has breakpoints set at 1024 for tablet and 768 for mobile. But Astra has defaults of 768 for tablet and 480 for mobile. What could possibly go wrong? Hi, this is David McCann for Elementor 360. Welcome to another 360 tutorial. In this tutorial, I want to look at styles and breakpoints. Elementor and Astra have different defaults. Does this matter? I'll show a couple of examples of why I think it does, and then how to match them for more design control and a more consistent viewing experience. So I have here a test site. I've got Astra Pro installed, and I have Elementor and Elementor Pro installed. First, let's take a look at colors, fonts, and content width settings. When you look at the Elementor Settings General tab, you'll notice there are two options here. One is to disable default colors, and another is to disable default fonts. Checking this means that Elementor will use the colors from your theme, and checking this means that Elementor will use the fonts from your theme. I recommend turning those on. Let me show you why. Here's the sample page that comes with WordPress. And here I recreated the sample page using Elementor. This is a heading, and these are just text widgets. First thing I want to show you is if we look at the fonts that are in use here, it's using the Segoe UI for both the heading and the text. If we look at the fonts used on the Elementor version, it's using sans serif for the heading and Segoe UI for the text. And also we have this lovely light blue color. So if we want our pages that come from the theme and our pages that come from Elementor to match, then we're going to need to do something. And so what I suggest doing is to check these and save it. And now let's go back and reload the Elementor version. We can see now it's used the same fonts and colors as the default Astra page. So that's progress. Now there's also, if you look carefully here, you'll see there's some extra spacing here. See, there's more space here than there. And so if we look at the second settings tab for style, we see some more settings to coordinate with the theme. Let's take a quick look at the Astra Customizer settings. Under Global Container, we can see that the default width is 1200 pixels. But if we look at the content width in Elementor, it's 1140. So let's make those the same. We see by default, Elementor is putting 20 pixels between widgets, which would be this extra space here. This one's a little bit tougher. We can set this to 0. But I think this is more optional, whereas I recommend using the theme's styles and colors and setting the content width to match the theme. This one is more optional. Let's save it and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, now when we go to look, we've lost some extra space here, which is what we wanted, but we also lost the default 20 pixel padding under the heading. Of course, we can add that back in. But we might end up doing a lot of manual margins and padding when we make this change. So this is kind of more optional. I've been showing you the settings in the WordPress admin. You can access some of these settings here as well. See, here they are here. Okay, so that's it for colors, fonts, and content width. Now let's look at breakpoints. CSS or media query breakpoints are settings that are meant to roughly correspond to different viewing device sizes. A mobile phone has a smaller screen than a tablet, which has a smaller screen than a desktop computer. And breakpoints are used so that you can lay out and size page elements based on the different screen sizes. A mismatch in breakpoints between Elementor and the theme can show up in several different ways. But here I'm going to show you an example of a mismatch in breakpoints that I ran into when creating an archive template. So here I have an archive template for books. And you can see I'm using the archive posts, which I have here, and a sidebar here. For desktop, I'm having 2 columns, and what I want is for tablet to have 1 column and the sidebar, and then for mobile just have 1 column and hide the sidebar. So first thing I did is I went over to the sidebar to the responsive area, and I clicked hide on mobile. So that takes care of that, and that should hide that there. And then back here, when you have this little screen icon, you can click on that. And then here's tablet and here's mobile. So I click on tablet and I set that to 1. And we see that I have my sidebar here. Okay, so that looks like what I want. Let's go out now and look at this in the customizer. Okay, here's the page in the customizer on desktop. And you can see in the customizer we have device icons also. So now I want to go to tablet. Hey, what happened? There's no sidebar. This huge image. So we've got the excerpts for our books, but there's not a sidebar even stacked below. What's going on? Our design, as we saw it in the Elementor editor, and as we intended it to be, didn't happen. And the reason is because we have mismatched breakpoints. Let's go set the Elementor breakpoints to be the same as the Astra breakpoints and take a look. Here we set this for 769 and this for 481. Okay, now Astra's is 768 is where it goes to tablet, which is actually what this is. It says below this breakpoint, so that would be 768, and below this one would be 480, which is the Astra one. Okay, let's go back now and look in the customizer. It's going to take a minute here. We're going to go back and revisit this. Here's the desktop version. Here's the tablet version, which has the sidebar, and then here's the mobile version that has no sidebar. So we were able to fix this by coordinating the breakpoint settings. When testing this, I resized the browser window and noticed that the settings I thought I was making in the Elementor editor for different device layouts wasn't breaking in the usual places. I checked the Astra knowledge base, and nowhere do they list the breakpoints, so I asked support. They told me that Astra uses the default WordPress breakpoints of 768 for tablet and 480 for mobile. There's a huge difference between the Astra and Elementor defaults. So I reached out to Elementor support and asked about the Elementor breakpoints, which are 1024 for tablet and 768 for mobile. They said they set them that way to take into account high-definition tablets, such as the newer iPads, and they acknowledged that it might make sense sometimes to match the breakpoints with the theme. So I changed the Elementor breakpoints to match. Both Elementor and Astra only support 3 device sizes. Elementor decided to pay attention to high-res tablets, while Astra followed the WordPress defaults. If there were more breakpoints, this mismatch might not have occurred. As it is, the person building the site needs to decide which to support. I went with the Astra settings because they seem more commonplace. In this tutorial, I've shown why it makes sense to try to coordinate the Elementor settings with the theme defaults. I used Astra as an example, but the same idea holds true for other themes as well. By matching the 2 sets of settings, we can get a more consistent layout that matches the design intentions. I hope you found this tutorial useful. Thank you for watching.